Hello, everybody. Hopefully you're staying somewhat cool in this weather. It's been a hot couple. It's nice. It's been a hot couple days, at least for me. So I'm glad to hear some people are enjoying it, but it's been kind of hot. Not used to this level, but nice and cool in here, which is nice. So I have a few announcements up top, and then I'll be happy to take some questions. This week, President Trump and Secretary Rubio returned from the historic NATO summit in The Hague, where allies committed to dramatically increase defense and security spending to 5% of GDP. This landmark pledge reflects a generational shift in NATO's posture, ensuring that NATO has the forces, capabilities, warfighting readiness, and resilience needed to deter and defend against all modern threats. This is peace through strength. It's not just about budgets, it's about building real military power, a stronger industrial base, and interoperability to last. As President Trump said, this is a monumental win for the United States, for Europe, and for the cause of transatlantic peace and prosperity. The President's leadership deserves full credit for the reinvigorating NATO and restoring strategic clarity to the alliance. Today, the Secretary announced a new visa restriction policy for family members and close personal and business associates of drug traffickers sanctioned under Executive Order 14059. This will not only prevent them from entering the United States, but it will serve as a deterrent for continued illicit activities. We will continue to use all necessary tools to deter and dismantle the flow of fentanyl and other deadly drugs from entering our country. Tomorrow, Secretary Rubio will host the ministerial signing of a peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, right here at the Department of State. This is a significant milestone for peace in the Great Lakes region, and a reminder that peace on paper must be matched by implementation on the ground. As the Secretary has made clear, implementation enables the economic investment and regional stability we all seek. The United States is proud to support this hard-won progress. And next week, Secretary Rubio will host foreign ministers from Australia, India, and Japan for the 2025 Quad Foreign Ministers meeting on July 1st in Washington, D.C. The Secretary's first diplomatic engagement was with the Quad, and next week's summit builds on that momentum to advance a free, open, and secure Indo-Pacific. This is what American leadership looks like: strength, peace, and prosperity. And with that, I'll take some questions.
There's nothing on GHF?
So what I can say on GHF, actually, anticipating this question. So what I can say is we have approved funding for $30 million to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. And we call on other countries to also support the GHF, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, and its critical work. A track record of distributing over 46 million meals distributed to date, all while preventing Hamas looting, is absolutely incredible and should be commended and supported. From day one, we said we are open to creative solutions that securely provide aid to those in Gaza and protects Israel. This support is simply the latest iteration of President Trump's and Secretary Rubio's pursuit of peace in the region.
This is a technical question. Do you happen to know what account that money is coming from?
At this point, I do not. I'll take it back and see if we can.
All right, and then for something completely different, and I'll stop after this, just are you aware of any RIFs being issued today?
At this time, I have nothing to announce on that front. I'm not aware of anything to that effect.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi, Tommy. I'll keep with the reorganization. So I'm just wondering, so you guys have the July 1st deadline for state reorg, right? There's an injunction by a federal judge that effectively blocks the department from implementing agency-wide layoffs. And there's SCOTUS potentially weighing on this. So can you tell us, if we don't hear from SCOTUS by July 1st, which is Tuesday, is the State Department still going to go ahead with reduction in force?
Well, I'm not going to speculate and tell the future on hypotheticals, but I can tell you we have no plans here at the department to violate a court order.
Right. So you're saying that if SCOTUS between now and July the 1st does not weigh in on this, then the July 1st deadline will inevitably be postponed?
Well, my first answer stands, and I'm not going to speculate further on that. We have no plans here at the department to violate
Okay.
a court order.
One more on this. We understand the Foreign Affairs Manual recently has been tweaked to prepare for the foundation of the RIF procedures. This administration has eliminated DEI, and it said it's bringing back merit-based. However, we understand that some of the RIFs will depend on where a foreign service officer, for example, is working at the moment. And there are critics who are saying that that type of criteria basically ignores the years of knowledge, experience, language skills these officers have accumulated. So can you help us understand how this is going to be completely merit-based?
Well, look, what I can say is from the beginning, as the Secretary has said, this reorganization is about making sure we're able to meet the challenges of the 21st century, being able to move at the speed of relevance, as the Secretary says. It's about empowering people instead of a bureaucracy. And I think it's also important to note the process of this from the beginning, a full transparency in this process, communicating with the American people, with Congress, from the very beginning on this. So the point of this reorganization is, again, to move at that speed of relevancy. Again, I'll stress that I don't want to speculate moving forward exactly on what may happen, but I think it's important to remember the track record of how we got here and the ultimate point of this and what the American people, I think, would expect when it comes to meeting those challenges that we face today.
Could I ask a follow-up, though?
Yeah.
If the point is to move at the speed of relevancy, would experience, language, and previous posts, wouldn't that play into consideration?
Well, ultimately, what we're seeing here is wanting to make sure the State Department is able to meet those challenges. That's been this whole process that's been communicated from the beginning to make sure we're effectively meeting those challenges.
So you would take those into consideration?
Well, I think
language proficiency, for instance.
Well, again, I don't want to speculate on certain individuals or get too specific on hypotheticals. But what I can say, as the Secretary has said, is this reorganization is about making sure we're empowering people, not bureaucracy, that we're able to meet those challenges in an effective way. He has spoken to that routinely. He has spoken to that publicly. That's the point here, and I think the American people expect to see that.
If I may, I also wanted to follow up on something that Matt raised on the GHF. There's been a lot of criticism, almost universal criticism from the Arab world, from the UN and others, about the distribution process or limited sites in southern Gaza, no access in northern Gaza, the deployment of IDF troops, monitoring access in violation of certain international norms and the Geneva Conventions. Can you tell us, as the U.S. is about to begin funding, whether they are expanding the sites to more sites so that they can equal what the World Food Program and others had done previously?
Well, look, what I can say is, again, that 46 million meals distributed to date. That's something that should be applauded. We've talked about here in the past different distribution sites that have been opened, but I think this is an example of seeing that aid that has been distributed. And President Trump's commitment, Secretary Rubio implementing that vision here to get aid to the people of Gaza. So we're seeing those 46 million meals, and then we're seeing from there the fact that we're seeing this $30 million approved.
But if I may, if you do the math, there are 2 million people in Gaza. If you figure that families have multiple children and that this process has been going on now for nearly a month, 46 million meals don't amount to feeding the population of Gaza.
Well, it's 46 million meals that have been distributed. That is a positive thing. And we call on other countries to support the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and its work as we have this $30 million that are approved. We're seeing the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in line with President Trump's call to deliver aid in a way where it can't be looted by Hamas. We're seeing those creative solutions. We're seeing the fact that we have 46 million meals distributed. That is good news that we have those meals being distributed, and we call on other countries to join in supporting the GHF's work.
Can I have a follow-up on that, please, Tommy?
Okay.
Every time there's been a distribution in some of those centers, there's been chaotic scenes, and according to the Palestinian sources, shots and people actually dying, heading towards these centers. Now, the Israeli army is saying it's investigating all that, but it seems to be a pattern from the beginning. So do you have no issue with that whatsoever? What's your take on that?
Well, there are two factors here. First, we refer you to the IDF on their investigations. Second, I would remind you that many of these reports, some of these reports, are based in Hamas propaganda. So we have two factors here when it comes to some of these reports. Ultimately, we want to see aid reach the people of Gaza. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has delivered 46 million meals. We've seen that. We want to see that food being delivered. We see the $30 million approved. So that's what the story is here, moving to implement, get those creative solutions in there to make sure that the aid being distributed is not being looted by Hamas.
And just a follow-up on that, you said $30 million. Has that money actually been given to the foundation already?
It's been
to whom?
It's been approved. That's as far as I can go on that front. Yes.
Yeah, just to follow on what everyone is asking about, you say you want to see aid get into Gaza. Are you pushing the Israeli government to allow other groups into Gaza to distribute aid? Today, GHF was the only one allowed into the Strip.
What we're pushing for is for other countries to join us in supporting the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's work.
But there
That's what
are
we're
other
pushing
groups
for.
who had been established and had methods that were able to distribute more widely before the restrictions of the Israeli government. So are you asking them to also lift these restrictions?
What we're pushing for is for other countries to support the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation's work. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation being able to deliver that aid without it being looted by Hamas. And again, that's about that creative solution that President Trump has said from the beginning. So we call on other countries to support the GHF in this. Yes.
To follow up, I mean, I'm sure that 46 million meals are very good, and the Palestinians appreciate that. But that, as Andrea said, that translates to about 20 meals per person over, a period of a month, because it's been a month since they started this thing. So there are only like 4 centers. So are there any plans to expand these centers to make more openings, more entry points and so on for aid and all these things? Because Gaza used to receive, 1,000, maybe a couple thousand trucks of food a day. So the situation is very dire.
So I don't have anything to preview in terms of future plans here. I'm not going to get into that here. I can say what we've seen in the past is distribution sites opening. We've seen a ramp up of the meals being delivered. And I think, again, the story here is 46 million meals being delivered to the people of Gaza. That is the story here.
Right. But just if I may,
All right, one
if I may follow very, very quickly. Yeah, but also it has been a death trap. I mean, everybody is documenting that Palestinians are being killed at these centers and so on. Many of them are afraid to go. There's a looming disaster. I mean, are you talking to the Israelis? Are you urging them not to be trigger happy and confronting very hungry people who are so desperate that they're probably grabbing stuff and so on?
Well, I answered your question earlier, but I think it's also important to recognize that Hamas bears sole responsibility for this conflict, as has been stated from this podium several times by spokesperson Tammy Bruce. The fact that we're seeing Hamas act in certain ways and really in barbaric ways, that they've continually done that. So Hamas bears sole responsibility for this conflict. And again, the story here is the 46 million meals that have been able to be distributed to the people in Gaza during this time, and the fact that we're encouraging other countries to also support the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Yes.
Thanks, Tommy. Sticking on the JHF, do the Americans plan on playing, other than the role of a benefactor here, any other role in terms of management, in terms of security? There were 8 Palestinian GHF contractors that were shot dead, last week. What is the role here, other than here's cash?
Well, look, fundamentally, again, we wanted to make sure we get those resources in a way that helps deliver that food, helps deliver that aid. I have no further details for you at this time. We may have more details in the days ahead. But ultimately, this is about those 46 million meals and trying to get more aid into Gaza in the sense of that $30 million that's been approved for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
Special Envoy Witkoff stressed moving forward with the Abraham Accords. President Abbas wrote a letter to President Trump, basically, congratulating him on the Iranian ceasefire, expressing his desire to move forward with the peace process here. I'm trying to figure out, because there's been almost no discussions between, at least publicly, between the State Department and the Palestinian Authority. I know Tammy always says just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not going on. But where if Hamas is going to be out of the picture, maybe Arab countries don't know where it's going, what is the State Department's vision for future Palestinian Authority involvement in the region? What is the vision? What is the policy?
Well, right now, what we're looking at is trying to get a ceasefire. That is our focus. Our focus now is the ceasefire we need to see. Our focus is getting to that ceasefire, standing with Israel's right to defend itself, its right to protect itself. That's where we are currently. That's where our focus is. And that's where it's going to remain until we reach those goals. Yes.
Hi, Tommy, I'm going to stick on this subject just for a little bit more. You keep saying that the story is the distribution of 40+ million meals. and we're trying to just point out all of the other multifaceted angles of what's going on here, given that the government is about to invest a lot of money into this. So I'm just wondering, like, why, again, to Jenny's question, does this mean the U.S. government doesn't support the World Food Program trying to get into Gaza right now? If not, why not? We're just trying to get a clear answer on why is it just one organization and not the others?
Well, as I just said, what this indicates is the fact that we have $30 million approved for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. That's what this indicates. We've also seen the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, as I was saying, been able to deliver aid in a way that is not being looted by Hamas. The story here, again, as I've said, as you pointed out, is that 46 million meals. That's the story here, and the fact that we're encouraging other countries to step up and support this. The president's been clear. He's been looking for those creative solutions to get aid into Gaza. This is one of those indicators showing a follow-through on that commitment from Secretary Rubio here implementing that vision at the State Department.
And I don't know, sorry, if I could just have one more. I don't know if you've seen in the last couple of weeks, there was an American security contractor who used to work for the organization. He wrote his experience in ZTO, and he described how the contractors, the Americans going to work for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, were themselves not getting enough sleep, not getting enough to eat. He describes how some of the contractors were picking up food from the ground, food that was supposed to go to the Palestinian people. I'm just going to very quickly read this to you. He said, "We're telling crying women trying to pick up food for their families that they had to go, and they were looking at this food on the ground that they desperately needed, and they couldn't take it." He said it was absolutely horrific. So when you say the story is that they are getting millions of meals out, the other side of it is that there are many more people who are not getting food, and it's not enough food, and the security situation on the ground, other stories are starting to come out about people who are actually there. So do you have a comment on the experience of some of these contractors who you're about to fund?
Well, every single one of these briefings, every single day, we have conversations about the situation in Gaza. Every single day, we have those conversations. And every single day, we've been working in terms of trying to figure out creative ways to get aid to the people of Gaza. Every single day, we've been working on that. The humanitarian situation, trying to address that. Every single day. And what we're seeing here is that $30 million commitment to this organization. That is what we're seeing. That is the commitment that President Trump laid out in terms of trying to get those creative solutions in there. So that's really what we're talking about here, that $30 million going to that organization, the 46 million meals. But of course, we're aware of what's happening in Gaza. That's part of why the president had this commitment to get aid in there, but also to get to that ceasefire, get to that peace, talking about long-term prosperity for everyone in the region. The fact that the people of Gaza have suffered tremendously under the hands of Hamas. The president has spoken about this continually, so has Secretary Rubio. So that's part of what we're seeing here, that $30 million to this foundation. And we encourage, as I said, other countries to also join in supporting this effort. Yes.
Thank you, Tommy. On Iran, there's been some perhaps mixed messaging on the diplomatic outlook. The president has said he doesn't think a deal is necessary, but Special Envoy Witkoff said yesterday that he's hoping for a comprehensive peace agreement. If talks with Iran do indeed happen next week, as the president said they would, can you say what the goal would be for those discussions?
Well, I refer you to my colleague Caroline. She spoke about this at the press briefing at the White House. One of the things that she said there was the goal of an Iranian meeting is to obtain long-standing peace in the region, and I have nothing further to add to her comments.
So no nuclear agreement would that be necessary?
Again, nothing to add in addition to my colleague Caroline's comments.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, right here. Yep. You.
Thank you. Thanks, Todd. You mentioned Israeli army investigations into some of the food distribution incidents at these GHF sites. On June 2nd, Ambassador Huckabee attacked the press for reporting on some of the scenes of chaos and bloodshed. And he said that all the meals back then initially had been distributed smoothly and with, quote, without incident. Will the ambassador amend his statement against the press if the Israeli army confirms that there had indeed been chaos and bloodshed at the aid distribution sites?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on the future there. What I can say is, as refer you to my earlier answer about the two dynamics that we're dealing with.
And then secondly, there's been some reporting from Israel today about what happens next, assuming there's a durable ceasefire that endures, including the US and Israel talking about bringing Syria and Saudi Arabia into the Abraham Accords, and that a peace plan could help Arab countries help administer Gaza if Hamas is removed. Are you able to talk about that at all, or describe the administration's next focus for the region?
I'm not going to speculate. As I said, our focus remains on achieving that ceasefire. Yes.
Today in Riyadh,
There was a meeting between Saudi Foreign Prince Faisal bin Farhan and U.S. Special Envoy Tom Barak. Can you give us more details or read out about the meeting?
Nothing to preview here. I'll take back your question and see if there's anything we're able to
And I have a follow-up about the GHF. You said that there are investigations. Or are you aware that there are investigations from the Israelis? Because you said that they are looting by Hamas, but we are seeing kids dying. So why they are using force when there are kids like just trying to get food that they are in dire need for?
As I said, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is part of why we have seen the president call for creative solutions to get aid into Gaza. It's important to remember, though, that, as I said again, Hamas bears sole responsibility for this conflict. That is fundamental, and what we're seeing here is the president saying we need creative solutions to get aid into Gaza, and we're seeing $30 million approved to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in order to support those efforts.
But there's force used next to kids who are in dire need of food. Why are the IDF using force and like bullets next to kids who are trying just to get some flour?
Well, as I, again, refer you to my earlier answer of the two dynamics here. The fact that there are some examples, and the IDF has said publicly that they are investigating. I refer you to them on their investigation.
Are you following this
But also that there are examples, where of Hamas propaganda. So there are two different dynamics here. I refer you to them on their question. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tammy. Two questions. The Russian Defense Secretary Andrei Belousov announced that thousands of North Korean engineer corps would be sent to help rebuild Kursk. Kursk is Ukraine territory. Do you think this will be an issue between Russia and Ukraine in ceasefire talks?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one more time? I missed the first part of your question.
First part, the Russian Defense Defense Secretary Belousov announced that thousands of North Korean engineer corps would be sent to help rebuild Kursk, Ukraine territories. So do you think this will be an issue between Russia and Ukraine in ceasefire talks?
On the issue of North Korea support for Russia or vice versa, we've spoken to that multiple times from this podium. I refer you to those earlier comments from myself and spokesperson Bruce. As the president has said many times, we hope to see that ceasefire, that long peace. We've been working for that, engaging with that. Ultimately, it is up to the parties in order to reach that.
One more. Do you know how much will the U.S. increase its defense cost sharing with South Korea, and when will you discuss this issue?
Let me take back your question and see if we can get some further details for you.
Somewhat related to that, can I just ask a logistical thing, and just very quick? You mentioned the Quad meeting that the Secretary is going to be hosting.
Yes.
He is still planning to meet with these foreign ministers individually before the Quad meeting, right?
I'll see what we're able to read out. At this point, I can confirm the Quad meeting, but I'll see if I can get you more details on that.
Thanks.
Can I go to Africa? What you asked, what you talked about at the beginning. What exactly is being signed tomorrow? Because Nobel Peace Prize winner Denis Mukwege said that this peace process has been opaque, non-inclusive, that this deal rewards aggression. I mean, there was he's been very critical of this, so I'm wondering what exactly is being signed here.
Also, first of all, as you mentioned, tomorrow Secretary Rubio will host the ministerial signing of the peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda right here at the State Department. There are provisions on respect for territorial integrity and a prohibition of hostilities, disengagement, disarmament, and conditional integration of non-state armed groups, establishment of a joint security coordination mechanism that incorporates the CONOPS of October 31st, 2024, facilitation of the return of refugees and internally displaced persons, as well as humanitarian access and a regional economic integration framework. So, though I would stress also what was mentioned in my topper, that it is with implementation of this agreement that the economic investment and development we all want to see will be possible.
So you talk about regional framework, but this is just between two countries, and there are a lot of countries involved in this conflict.
Well, I think ultimately, again, refer you to the comments I just had there. There'll be more information as we approach the day itself. But this is good news. This is good news. This is a fantastic achievement. We're proud to support this effort, and we applaud this effort. Yes.
So I have two questions on China. One is that China the State Department increases scrutiny on the student visas of foreign students, particularly from China. I'm wondering if the department has concerns about the Chinese student associations in the U.S., given their ties to the Chinese consulates, and they have been described as a tool to extend Chinese influence.
So on your first question, I'll take that back, see if we can get you some details on that. On the second, on student visas and on our visa policies here in general, what I can say is that every single visa decision is a national security decision, and that's something that Secretary Rubio takes incredibly seriously. And I think it's the American people want that to be taken seriously, the ability to properly vet certain rules, regulations. Every single visa decision is a national security decision, no matter who you are applying for a visa. And that's, like I said, something the Secretary takes very seriously. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.